Okay, let's go. Oh, really? Yeah. You've covered everything. Just to let you guys know that during the stream, there's a discount on Run It Once Essential, where we're both uh, content creators. So if you follow the link in the chat and apply the code STREAM, then you get a discount. Sound, sounds we're missing your audio apparently, Alex. Yeah, your audio is not working.
Hello? Did I just talk with myself? Yeah, it's working now. Supposed to be. At least it shows like it is.
Okay. Start with a hand then. I'll let you know if it's not. Yeah, perfect. Let's go.
So did I just talk for myself? I promise I had really interesting things to say. Okay, so hero here opens under the gun with Jack 10 suited and gets a call from the big blind. Board is ace king 6, and he doesn't donk, he shouldn't. Here I think we can implement different strategies, and this board is really good for us. So I think we could go for something like 3/4 range bet. Here I think we can even use big bets and still go for very close to a range bet, or we could choose even bigger bet sizes like big over bets, but then our frequency should be a bit lower. How would you play here?
Yeah, so I also use 3/4 range bet in this spot, which can definitely seem counterintuitive for some hands, if you've got hands like pocket nines. But in general, your range is doing so good on this board that overall your range wants to be putting in a bunch of money. So yeah, we can start with a range bet. Sounds good.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to mention here that people aren't really aware of is that in this spot, when you're opening, your range is quite tight and very condensed around this overcard, and you don't really have that many like lower suited connectors and so on. So here, when you have those lower pairs, you can still bet, because what you accomplish is that sometimes you are gonna get some worse hands to call, not all that often, but sometimes he's gonna call with stuff like queen jack, jack 10, and then you're going to get, let's say you bet 5s here for 3/4, he's supposed to fold most of his pairs from 7s through 9s, 10s, and so on.
Yeah, even some king X, something like king 7 of hearts is not in a great spot, probably just close to a flop fold.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose if you go like 2x spot, even ace x becomes quite indifferent here.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but our hero decides to go for a small bet. Yeah, as I said, I'd like to see a bigger bet here. I don't think there's much else to talk about the flop, right?
No, all good.
Okay, and the turn is a 5 of diamonds. In this spot, I would definitely go for relatively big, so quite a big overbet, because I got so small on the flop that I would like to make up for the missed value. And this hand, I think it's actually quite a good bluff, because it does have a gut shot, it does get better to fold quite often, and also the suits are quite good because they don't block missed backdoors that call flop and then automatically fold there. How would you play here?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice hand to barrel. I agree with what you said about the suits. This is going to be one of our best suits to barrel. So we prefer to barrel with hearts and diamonds here, and check back a bit more with clubs and spades. And the reason for that is we want people to fold when they have the clubs and spades in their hand. And also this is just really good because we block some of our positions flop continues, like Ace Jack and Ace 10.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, and our hero actually does go for an overbet. I think I would like to see a bigger sizing here after we bet the flop so small, but it's good to see an overbet even if it's not as big. Anything to add about the turn here, or should we
good.
go to the river, which is an ace? So yes, this session is focusing on turn play. I just like to highlight that, these spots where the turn is pretty much a blank and you retain your range advantage, especially after you range bet flop, you probably want to be very, very polar and bet your best bluffs and your best value hand while checking back the middle of your range. And this is very consistent in pretty much all positions across boards that share these properties. Now, when the river pairs and it's an ace, what are your thoughts here, Paul?
So my thoughts would be that the hands that I want to bluff, I want to be able to block his value, but also unblock his folds. A hand like Jack 10, I think, could be a nice hand to use as a bluff here because, as we said, we're blocking Ace Jack, we're blocking Ace 10. A hand like Jack 10 of hearts is probably going to be folding on turn versus the overbet, so I don't think we're really blocking auto folds. So yeah, I think this would be a nice hand to continue on the river.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's probably one of our best bluff candidates, especially because it also blocks his best ace-x. It's just that, that's when we talk about theory, but in practice, I'm not really sure this spot is going to. I think people might actually end up overcalling this spot, and if we want to bluff, I think I would go for a really, really massive size here, maybe all in, because if I go like, I don't know, something like 150% or pot or stuff like that, I really don't expect the average 25 NL player to fold an ace here after calling an overbet on the turn. And yeah, from what I see in data, these spots where the river top pair, where the flop top pair is pairing on the river, they seem to be a bit underfolded. So that's one factor that might make me refrain from bluffing here, or at least I would like to use a really, really big size so I know an ace is actually put in a tough spot. What do you think? Anything to add? Or should we see what he did?
That sounds fine, yeah.
Okay, he goes 28 big blinds and gets called by ace-8. I think here in practice, I think here in theory they are supposed to fold some ace-x. But in practice, I think people don't really press an RNG here and just call pretty much all the time. That's why, I don't think it's the greatest spot to bluff.
We had a question from the chat. So on Andy said, is the river ace reducing our overall betting frequency and sizing compared to a blank, for example, the two of hearts?
That's a really good question. I guess it does now block some of our value combos, but I guess it's the same thing for VLAN. And when we bet the turn, we're basically wrapping really strong ace-x, or a strong ace-x, or, some full house. And the fact that the ace pairs on the river doesn't really, make those hands less valuable. So I'm not really sure, but we could check this with the solver. What do you think, Paul? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts would be driven by betting bigger on the flop. And I think if we can go back to the hand.
Okay. I'm sorry. What did I do?
So if we bet bigger on the flop, obviously the turn bet is going to be bigger. And then on the river, I think our betting frequency is going to be driven by, I think maybe around ace jack, ace queen as our main value region, and then stronger hands. And I think those hands can just go for an all in. So I think the frequency might go down because our value range is so is reduced a bunch, but I think our sizing would go up. So I'd imagine we just want a jam river, and it's obviously going to be less than if the river was a brick and we go for maybe some 75% bets.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Do you want to check GTO Wizard?
Yep, let's do that. Am I on the right tab on YouTube? Am I?
Yeah, I think you never went back to the hand. You were just on GTO Wizard the whole time.
Oh. Okay, under the gun versus big blind, I'm just going to use the standard ranges here. And the board is ace, king,
6.
So you see we can almost range by the flop. And let's just check this sim to see, how the ace pairing influences our river strategy. And not really play much with the flop strat and so on, because that's not really the point. You see, our range is actually very polar. What I find quite interesting here is queens betting full frequency, and this is actually a bluff, and along with all of these pairs, but this is actually quite counterintuitive to finding game, and this is why my advice is when you face a turn bet here, we should probably overfold, because it's very, very unlikely that villains are going to find all these bluffs in such a tight range spot.
Hopefully that's answered you, Sam. So Sam asked, with our under the gun range being so narrow, do we have or need any non-natural type of bluffs on the turn? So as you can see, some for sure non-natural bluffs on the turn. Those pocket pairs, those queens, I don't think people are finding those in game. And we're finding some nice checkbacks with hands like Jack 10 at some frequency, and some frequency of Queen Jack checking as well. Yeah, let's check the river.
Random ace.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, our betting frequency is not that high, but as you said, Mr. Solver, our size increases. This is automatically picked by GTO Wizard AI.
Let's just have a look at it to a heart as well. See if it. So maybe I'd expect a different size, but at a higher frequency. Higher frequency, still the same size, or mix between two.
Yeah, because if you think about it, our range is really, really polar here, and our value threshold is still 2 pair. Because if you think about it, he's not really supposed to raise flop almost ever or turn. So by the river, even though we still have the range advantage, he still has his strong hands, and probably something like ace queen here is not gonna be strong enough to bet, in theory at least, but in practice, to be honest, if we were to go here 3/4 or half pot or whatever with ace queen, out of position is probably supposed to find some bluffs that if they don't, then we are probably allowed to value bet a bit thinner.
Can we can you just have a look when that was back as an ace? I just wanted to check the strength of the ace X that continues. Just press check. Okay, yeah, ace queen as the threshold hand. Okay, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah, I guess this is because now this reduces the amount of better two pairs he can have. So ace
Yeah,
queen is
that the king six suited is a really nice bluff.
yeah
I quite like that.
yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at another hand then.
Back on hold the manager.
Yeah, I'll let you know if we're not. Hey Paul, thanks for joining. So Paul said he's greetings from Las Vegas.
Oh, greetings from Romania. That sounds a bit sadder. Okay, we face a limp, I assume, from a recreational or from
No,
some...
we're not. We're not back on the replay.
Not back on the replayer. What is that? Okay.
Okay.
And we go for an ISO of 3 big blinds. Here, I think I agree with kind of when you face a limp from a recreational. I think it's a decent thing to do, especially when you're facing not so good rags behind you, to just ISO based on your hand strength. But still, I think the minimum size I would go here is something like 3.5, and I would mostly use 4x plus depending on the recreational and also depending on my hand. I don't think this is a spot where you need to be balanced with your pre-flop sizing. Yeah, I think this hand is definitely fine to ISO. Thoughts about pre-flop?
Yeah, I generally agree with you. If I'm playing something like 200 now on PokerStars, where it's a bit of a tougher call, I will be more rigid in my pre-flop ISO sizes, just because I think some regs there are good enough to pick up on us changing our sizes with different portions of our range. But yeah, for most pools up to 200 and now, regs are not really putting you in tough spots, even if you're changing your ISO sizes. So yeah, I agree with you. And I think one thing to just highlight here is that the earlier you are to raise, I think going for a smaller size makes a lot of sense, because you still have players behind you who can squeeze you out of the pot. And so with something like Queen Jack that's just going to be folding, you obviously don't want to be investing, 5 big blinds and lose that when we get squeezed.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. And also, if you are, one of the regulars at these tables, I would actually pay attention to people's ISO sizes, and that's an exploit I use quite often, because it can be obvious that regulars ISO 5 big blinds with aces and then 3 with Queen Jack offsuit. So then I start just 3-betting them very, very frequently when I see these small opening sizes, ISOing sizes. But just on average, I don't think most regs are paying enough attention to this, or enough attention to, make this unprofitable or less profitable than one size.
Yeah, so Paul Eric in the chat said, hi, how aggro are the regs behind? So this is a 50 and 25 NL on Pacific Poker, so wouldn't imagine the regs behind are anywhere near as aggro as they should be.
Yeah, these are hands from our students, so I don't have stats on VLAN or reads on anyone.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we go 4 ways to a flop, and we face a massive donk 4 ways from a recreational. And to be honest, here I already hate this spot. I think this is quite a big tell of strength, because first of all, when you check how recreationals tend to donk, they have massive sizing tells. But not only there's a sizing tell, he also leads this size into 3 people left to act. So to be honest, I already hate this spot. I think there are certain recreationals I would just happy fold this on the flop against, but there's not a lot of those, just really passive ones. And again, having 2 people to act behind is not great for our hand. But here I still think we have to continue against the average recreational. What do you think?
Yeah, so the first thing with the recreational when they donk is they're going to be massively unbalanced. You'll see some recreationals donk complete nonsense here. You'll see them donk with hands that actually do make sense, like 7-8 or 8-9 or 3-4. And then what I would say is that you really should note if you see a recreational donking and what he turns up with. Now, in this spot, I do really dislike this spot just because one of the positives pre-flop was that we were ISOing because the regulars at these stakes are not going to put us in a tough spot pre-flop. So that is actually a negative then when we reach this spot and we still got two regulars behind left to act, because these guys probably should be squeezing us with hands like King Jack and Ace Jack pre-flop. And if they're not doing that and they're just calling, then obviously this is a worse board for us when we hold Queen Jack. Now, I'm probably not going to be folding flop, but I do think it's very close. This would be dependent on reads I have and history with players.
Okay, I agree. I think recreationals, it's very useful to know the data about them, but in practice they are so different one from another that there's nothing more valuable than taking notes and actually trying to pay attention to showdowns in game and so on. Our hero goes for a call, and fortunately everyone else folds. And let's see what's happening on the turn so we can talk more about turn strategies. Da-da-da-da! Yeah, we face a shove. I think this is going to be one of the most underbluffed spots in poker history.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have to spend too much time on this. As we mentioned, some of their natural flop bluffs got there, so the 3-4 and the 8-9 that we mentioned. So yeah, I would be very selective with my bluffs here, with my calls here, and yeah, just fold for me.
What would be the worst hand you'd call here?
I'd prefer to call something like Jack 8, just because if we are behind, we can have outs to improve. If villain has something like Jack 6 or pocket 5s, we also block a hand like 8-9. But yeah, I'm not completely sure, to be honest. Again, this is a spot where, like, when I'm in game, I try to take as many notes as I can of recreationals, and hopefully would have a better idea knowing who this guy is.
Oh,
but
no.
I think one thing I would say is that I think this could be so under bluff that we just want to call hands that beat value, So I probably wouldn't fold a hand like Jack 7 here, because villain can have Jack 5 and Jack 6. I think that's probably how I would approach a spot. Well, I never have Jack 7 because I wouldn't ISO that pre, so it'd be like a set probably, pocket 5s. I'm never going to fold.
Yeah, I was thinking that they might not have calls here at all. That's what I was asking, because I'm thinking the hands that I want to call here, yeah, maybe Jack 7, but the others I would probably raise flop with, so, or fold flop with, like straights and so on. Yeah, maybe 4-5. But yeah, extremely high folding frequency here. So unexpected. Actually, yeah, it is quite unexpected that big donking to 4 people on the flop. Okay, before we move into the next hand, we would like to remind you that during the stream there is you have the chance to get 50% off your Run It Once Essential by using the code stream at checkout, and Paul is going to leave the link for the discount in the chat.
One thing I would say about that hand is that that's a very big note that we just got from the recreational, that he donked for that size into 3 people with 8-9. So this just goes to show that when we were talking about the type of trash that they can donk on the flop, this is going to be a really big note, because if we're in this situation next time, there's going to be some nice value raises that we can make. He didn't just turn up with something like pocket 5s or Jack 6 on the flop. He turned up with 8-9. So
yeah, I agree. Okay, next hand, again we go for an ISO that is quite small, not gonna talk about that again too much. And we face another donk, probably like short stack indicates he's probably recreational. And we face a half pot donk here. I think there's actually... Yeah, I think when they do this range is very often quite full of trash, but also very often they have really mergy hands like 7x, like 3x, like 8x. So against these donks, I would raise very, very often as a bluff, and then I would continue barreling on multiple streets just because I expect them to check raise or check call to check raise turn, or just play differently with their very strong hands, and do this with hands that don't really know what to do to face a bet. That's a very common tendencies of the recreationals. But this hand doesn't really fit to get value from mergy hands. It could get some protection, but yeah, I think I would mostly just call this. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I would call this as well. And yeah, just to highlight again, recreational donking, make sure that we take notes at the end of it. And on this board, there wasn't as many natural bluffs on the last board, but on this one, there's potentially lots. There's the 4-5s, the 5-6s, something like 9-6, 9-5, 6-4, and then you have like 9-10s and Jack-10s and lots of hands like that. So there's potentially a lot of bluff hands.
Yeah, but I don't think the problem here is that if we start raising this to like foreseen value or protection or so on, there's the risk that we're gonna get shoved on by a lot of those hands.
Yeah, I'd never raise.
I mentioned before that I would raise and barrel as a bluff very frequently in this spot with my range, obviously not with this hand. But what I meant by that is if the SPR is higher, so if we are deep stack, I don't think that's a good play in this kind of SPR.
Nice. That answers Paul's question. Was that
I didn't see it. What was it? Okay, we go for a call. Mr. Expert in recreational donks, I'll let you talk about this one.
I'm not really sure what to say. This is just a spot where you just have to, continue. This can be 3x. That recreationals with donking on the flop. It can still be 7x. Can still be 8x. It can still be lots of hands that want to see the river. So those draws, those flush draws. Obviously, with pocket fives, we're just going to be calling. If I had a hand like something like queens, something that's quite strong, it doesn't block the bluffs, I'd be probably just going for a raise here and just trying to get stacks in against his 5-6 and flush draws and 9-10 and things like that. We also get to stack a hand like 7-8 as well. But yeah, with pocket fives, I mean, we're getting amazing pot odds. We need to be right. Where's the 6%?
Yeah, 6%.
So yeah, this is just always call, and this is always a call with ace highs and as well.
Yeah.
Basically every hand that you get to turn with.
I completely agree. But our hero decides to go for a shove. Curious about the thought process behind this. I don't think I'm going to figure it out myself.
No, again, maybe if this person was thinking a lot about the draws in villain's range, then this could make some sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's mostly unnecessary with pocket fives. I think you might just get looked up too often by 7x, 8x. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one point that I want to make here in this hand, this is not only about turn play, but I see this in my students' hands most often in regards to turn play. People tend to just consider one part of the villain's range and take an action against that particular part. So, they take an action because villain has draws in a particular spot, but they don't think, okay, how much of his range is actually draws and how much of it is value, and how how this action performs against different parts of his range. I
Yeah.
think that's something important
Well,
to consider.
one thing I would say here is that like this could potentially be the best play if we've got notes on villain that he always donks draws, never donks value. You know, a note like that would make this play probably fine. But again, that's like the power of notes against recreationals who are completely imbalanced.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah, 7x. Okay, another nice note we get to take though, at least.
Yeah. How to play turns against recreational. Well, everything comes down to taking notes. That's the best advice. Okay, now we have a 3-bet, 4-bet pot, my favorite. Yeah, 9's 3-betting against cutoff, pretty standard. I think in theory you can call here sometimes. Wouldn't do that much myself, unless in very specific circumstances. And facing a 4-bet, yeah, this is pretty much always a call unless he goes huge. But this 4-bet size is on the smaller side. Wanna add any thoughts on preflop, or should we?
All good.
Okay, board is 7, 3, 4. Decent board for us, I would say. I mean, he still keeps his overpair advantage, which is quite strong. Yeah, it's not that decent for us because we're gonna have some 5, 6, which he never has. But those are gonna be low frequency, and then we don't really have 3s and 4s. We have 7s sometimes. But yeah, I think he's still going to retain his equity advantage. The flush draw is a bit better for us because we don't have offsuit hands. Well, he has some, but yeah, in this scenario he's also gonna 3-bet a lot of suited hands, so yeah, this board is not all that great for us, but it could be worse. And we face a check here. I think in theory this hand is going to be a mix. In practice, I think I do prefer betting because most villains in 25 NL here, if they go for a check raise, I think they are going to be quite imbalanced towards overpairs or really strong draws. So I think we actually have, yeah, maybe we don't want to get check raised. But against most villains, if I bet here and get check raised, I think I would probably fold. And yeah, if I think villain is very, very passive and straightforward and it's just gonna go with like check calls with stuff like ace king and ace queen and check raise straightforward, I would prefer to bet this. But if I think it's a more tricky villain that can find aggressive plays or that has a bit more neurons, I would prefer to check this back. How would you play here?
Yeah, I agree with what you said.
And now we face a big delayed c-bet on the turn on a flush completing texture. And I saw this hand before the session, and I found this spot quite interesting because I think once he checks the flop and goes for a big bet here, I think most villains are not gonna find a bunch of random hands, and maybe he's gonna have like ace king with a heart or king queen with a heart that has two overcards and a draw. And I'm wondering, I was actually wondering how much the solver is going to go for a shove here, because I think there's a bunch of hands that we can deny equity from, and not as many value hands once he checks flop. So I was wondering if it's a thing here. What's your thought? Would you call, fold, raise? None of those?
I think what's most attractive to me is that I think I'd go for shove sometimes, and it's again because of what you said. You know, villain is going to have some king queen off, ace queen off, ace jack off, ace king off that contain a heart. We don't block any of that range. I don't think it's great that we just call here. We're going to be putting in quite a lot of money, and there's going to be a bunch of rivers that are not great for our range, and not great for our hand. So I think this might be a spot where we would just like to find some jams with any of the strongest hands that we check back with on the flop. So the times that we did check back flop with tens or nines or eights, I think they might just want to shove here. But I'm not an expert in this spot, so I think GTO Wizards should probably be looked at.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. But before we go into the solver, are we on it?
I'm not sure yet. Can you just check in the yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so once I find this stream, once I find this sim for bad cutoff versus button, this is cutoff, this is button, this is for bad, call for bad, okay. Pot was around 37, I guess, and this was 81. Yeah, before we look into this, I wanted to make a point about how we should adjust in some of these scenarios. I'm not, this doesn't necessarily apply in 4-bet pots as much, although it might. But in these scenarios where the SPR becomes quite low, and you see in a solver a lot of these hands are called, in practice, if we think the villain we're facing is betting way more equity driven, so basically that he's not using those low equity bluffs and that most of the bluffs that he's using are draws, then we are incentivized to shove way more often. And also when villains bet, they are incentivized to check some hands in some spots just to not get raised or shoved on by villain. And people are often not really aware of that, so then what happens is we can put them in a tough spot and exploit them by going for more shoves instead of calls. And this is a principle you're also going to notice if you start note locking.
That's the wrong board.
Yeah, I know it's the wrong board. I didn't put it in yet.
Oh.
It was 7, 4, 3. Okay, so if you look here, we see equities are quite equal, which I didn't really expect. I thought his overpairs are gonna give him a bit more advantage. And you see here we are allowed to bet quite frequently for a small size. Nines don't really mind. I'm curious how his check raising range is supposed to look like here. Yeah, you see he's supposed to find some lower equity bluffs like ace-5 and some ace-4. Do you want to say something?
No.
Okay, but it goes check. And turn was, what was it?
Two hearts, I think, maybe.
2 or 6?
I don't think it made a straight, did it? I'm not sure. 6, yeah, you're right.
Okay, and you see this spot is not really going to exist because he's never supposed to bet here. We have quite a big 5x advantage. So to be honest, like, we can press here and see what we're supposed to do just to, illustrate the concepts that when you need protection, you kind of want to shove or fold. Apparently nines without a heart are not even a call here, so not a great hand, but still shoving is very viable, quite indifferent. But this is not super relevant because this is not the strategy that villain's going to implement almost for sure. So yeah, this output is not, doesn't really tell us much.
Okay, let's see what happened in game then.
He just went for a call and then folded river, which is probably what's going to happen most frequently here if you decide to just call. And yeah, I think this is actually one of the spots that even in practice folding is better than calling. And if you think he's bluffing too often or, you know, just betting one hard hand too often, then shoving probably becomes better. Want to add anything here?
No, yeah, I agree with all of your thoughts.
Okay, should we do one more hand and wrap it up then?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, just one last reminder that during the stream and shortly after it, you can get 50% off your Run It Once Essential subscription, and Paul is going to link the details in the chat.
So yeah, follow the link in the chat and you just have to apply the code STREAM at checkout. And just to let you guys know this, that we also have our own Discord channel. If you'd like to join that, we do weekly hand review sessions just like this as well. So I'll put the link for that too.
Yeah, we're actually running a mentorship program as well, and we are closing we are filling the last places this week. So if you're interested in that, you can find more details on the Discord.
Okay.
Okay, so another limp, another 3x open, a call. A lot of recreationals in these games. That's good. It means that our hero is probably table selecting well. Or I just found lucky hand. So here on an A7-6 against two recreationals, I would be looking forward, but quite polar, I would say.
We're still on wizards. Sorry, guys.
Something is wrong with my hotkeys. They don't work.
It's all Alexandra's fault.
Yeah, everything is always my fault.
All right, jump back to stats so everyone can see. Okay.
So there is
Thanks,
a
Tequila.
limp, an ISO, a call, and there's this guy are probably recreationals. We go for a really small c-bet. I think there are two viable strategies actually here. I think we could bet polar and, you know, just bet our best hands and some, you know, some of the bottom of our range. Or we could go really small and bet range, because if they are wide, they are still going to miss this board quite a lot. Yes, they are going to have quite a bunch of ace-x, but I think they are overall probably going to overfold to a small size here, and then we're going to play a potting position, heads up, where we probably have the edge. Or I would bet bigger and have some checkbacks, and then probably start bluffing them a lot with delayed c-bets, or, you know, evaluate based on what the turn is and direction. What would you say here? How would you play?
The way I would play this spot would be totally dependent on my hand. So I agree with you. If I had a hand like pocket nines, I'm probably going to go for a small bet like this. I'm going to get a lot of protection from, you know, getting to fold out king high, queen high, jack high, 10 high. I'm going to be able to get value from 6x, 7x, maybe some weaker pocket pairs as well. So something like pocket nines, I might bet for this size. If I've got portions of my range that are quite strong, so you know, the ace jack, ace queen, ace king type of hands, then I'm probably just going to be going for maybe around a half pot sizing. And that's just because I think these two villains are going to not be very elastic with their range. I think they're going to continue ace-x to almost any size. And so with my strongest ace-x and probably my hands like 6-7 or pocket sixes, I'm just going to choose big sizes. So yeah, pocket sixes, I'd probably just go, you know, like 7 big blinds as much as I can, because I unblock all the ace-x. And then something like ace queen, gonna probably go like half half pots, just because I still wanted to call with some 6x and 7x as well, and then something like pocket nines, that's small size.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts. And we face a call.
One thing I would say here is that I don't really like this bet with King 5 three ways. I think it's not really the type of hand that we can go barreling on loads of turns and rivers, and I think both villains are going to have way too much ace-x in their range. I don't expect villain 33 on the big blind to really be folding almost any ace-x, and the same then for villain 36 closing the action. So something like King High here would just be a pure check for me. I wouldn't see much merit in betting.
I'm not sure I actually agree with that. I do agree that better King X I would probably always check. But this one, especially when it has a backdoor flash draw, it also has a backdoor straight draw, can get better King X to fold. When it gets called by something like a 6 or a 7, it has an overcard to improve, and it doesn't really have showdown value. So something like King 5, I actually don't really mind betting. About ace-x, I do agree they are going to have quite a bunch of ace-x pre-flop. I don't think they're going to fold any of those. But it really depends on the recreationals, right? Because even though they are not going to fold, their range are going to be very, very wide and contain quite a bunch of combos that are not ace-x. So in terms of proportions, I don't think their ranges are going to be that ace-high heavy.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, just keep in mind here, is that like when we're playing against recreationals, we're going to make our money just by value betting them a bunch. We're probably not going to make a lot of money here with our I don't think a bluff is going to make us any money, and against recreationals, I don't think I need to be balanced. So I would rather just semi bluff. I'd rather use hands like 8-9 or 9-10. Or 4-5 when I want to bet here. Even something like King 8 would be better, just because you have two overs to the 6 and the 7. But I think King 5 is just unnecessary.
Right. Yeah, I agree here. Three ways we don't really want to bluff a lot, but I think there's in a heads up spot there's actually a lot of EV to gain by bluffing recreationals.
Wait, we're not heads up though.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
I just wanted to let people know that a lot of people have this misconception that I should never bluff recreationals or they're not folding a lot, but there are actually a lot of spots where bluffing recreationals become a print.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we face a donk bet again. Did I pick these hands? I didn't mean to all of them to be donk bets.
Yeah, we apologise to everyone in the chat who is looking forward to some turn play. We've just seen so much recreational play.
But we gave you concepts, which are the most important thing
That's
to
correct.
Improve your understanding of poker. Okay, so go on then.
My thoughts here is I have a flush draw. I'm going to click call against the small sizing. I don't think raising makes too much sense here. Like on some different boards, I think I would find some raises, but yeah, being in position, facing a small size, I'm just going to try to realize my equity by clicking call and reevaluate river.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think this is one of those spots where if you want to raise better hands that are happily, calling a turn 3 bet, or worse hands that are in the kind of spot that they are a bit too weak to call, they don't really accomplish much, but they probably don't want to fold either. Maybe something like, I don't know, Queen 8 or something like that. Maybe that's still good. Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I'd also just say that, on this turn here, we could potentially be ahead. We could potentially still be have some outs against his range as well. So wouldn't be surprised to see something like 6-8 or 6-9 suited go for a donk here, or 7-8, 7-9 type of hands go for a donk here. Same as like 10-8, 10-9 as well. So we still have that king out to improve against that portion of his range. So yeah.
Of course we have outs against his donking range. We have a second-hand flash draw.
No, I mean, we have a flush draw, but we also have outs against his pair flush draws.
Just want to make fun of you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And now we see another dunk bed, and I think the only single option here is to raise. How elastic do you think they are to a raise size here? So do you think if you make it um, 35 big blinds, he's calling a different range that if you just shove or not?
Sorry, I was looking at the chat. Can you ask that question again? My bad.
How elastic do you think they are to the sizing here? So do you think his calling range is going to look different if you make it here 30 big blinds compared to shoving, or not really?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can go really big, but I think shoving might fold out some sets and two pairs, where I think if a villain has something like ace 10 with the ace of clubs, that's gonna, well, that hand would probably still call a shove. Maybe something like ace 7 with the 7 of clubs. I think that would call like a massive raise, but it might not call a shove. Yeah, I think I would probably go for something like 45 big blinds or something here. I think an all in though might just scare off some villains with hands like two pairs and sets.
Yeah, I agree, but on the other hand, we get more value when. Yeah, I was thinking then we get more value from the hands that they call, because we don't know, like we can't know for sure they're gonna fold the set, and there's also straights and some worse flushes in his range. So I think overall shoving might be higher EV, even though it does fold out some hands that might call a smaller bet. I'm not sure though. Again, I think I'm gonna have to take a shot every time we say that, but it does really depend on the recreationals and on the reads you have on them. I promise I'm gonna try to find more rag hands for the next stream. So come back, sure. And we're gonna find.
I mean, to be fair, it's, like recreational hands are the best, right? Because that's where all your EV is coming from. So making the most out of a recreational is great for us.
Yeah, that's I completely agree with that, and we could also make a session on playing against recreationals. But I think it would be quite important to know who we are playing against and have some reads on them in order to discuss more than depends on the recreational.
Yeah, for sure. As long as we raise here, then everything's good.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
Taking back my words.
we probably should have shoved. I mean, he's got a great blocker to the flesh, Yeah, this is brilliant. But again, nice little note that villain donked on the turn like this.
All right. Should we wrap it up here then?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks everybody for joining. It was great.
See you on our Discord, and next week on Run It Once channel. We'll let you know when the next stream is going to be. And let us know in the comments or on Discord or anywhere if you have any topic suggestions, because I'm kind of running out of them.